It's 2005. The world of supercars looked completely different back then. Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche were chasing raw power, but nobody even came close to breaking the 400 kilometers per hour barrier. And then, out of the shadows, comes the Bugatti Veyron. Honestly, by the laws of physics, this car shouldn't have existed. It was heavy, packed with complex tech, and it literally melted the asphalt beneath its tires at top speed. The engineers set themselves a near-impossible goal: create a hypercar that could outrun a fighter jet on a runway, yet remain comfortable enough to drive to the local grocery store for milk. The result? The W16 engine. A wild piece of engineering consisting of two V8s fused together, pushing out 1,000 horsepower. In 2005, this sounded like pure science fiction that most people refused to believe. But the Veyron story isn't just about speed or numbers. It's a drama about a company on the brink of collapse, trying to prove to the world that engineering has no limits. Massive losses, hundreds of failed prototypes, and relentless pressure from competitors, they went through it all just to deliver a single legend. Today, we're breaking down why the 2005 Bugatti Veyron is still called the holy grail of automotive engineering, and why, even 20 years later, modern hypercars still look up to this project as the ultimate benchmark. Buckle up, because this is going to be a good one. The 1990s were a real roller coaster for Bugatti, a decade defined by wild ambition, technical brilliance, and brutal, crushing reality. If the 1920s and 30s saw Ettore Bugatti's name become synonymous with unrivaled luxury and absolute dominance on the world's greatest racetracks, by the end of the century, the brand had withered. It was reduced to little more than dusty blueprints, faded memories, and a name that carried heavy prestige but zero commercial power. In 1987, Italian entrepreneur Romano Artioli decided to bet everything on a resurrection. He built a state-of-the-art factory in Modena and launched the EB110, a machine that dared to challenge the status quo with its all-wheel drive, 4 turbochargers, and a cutting-edge carbon fiber chassis. It was, without question, the most advanced engineering manifesto of its time, but the real world of the 1990s was unforgiving. Despite the car's brilliance and technical superiority, the company collapsed under a mountain of debt by 1995. The factory was locked, the tools were auctioned off to cover liabilities, and the legendary name was thrown back into the scrap heap of automotive history. To the rest of the world, it felt like the final nail in the coffin. The story of a legend that couldn't survive the cold, cutthroat calculations of 90s, business seemed to be officially closed. That is exactly when Ferdinand Piëch stepped onto the stage. For the legendary head of Volkswagen, buying the rights to Bugatti wasn't about making a profit. It was a personal, obsessive challenge that bordered on madness. He looked at those ruins in Italy and didn't see a bankruptcy. He saw the absolute perfect foundation for the most insane, over-engineered experiment in the history of the motorcar. Piëch gave his engineers a task that would have made any rational CEO call for a psychiatric evaluation. Build a car that could reliably hit 400 kilometers per hour, yet remain as easy to drive and as comfortable as a luxury sedan when you're just running errands to the grocery store. The early 2000s turned into a true engineering hell. While Ferrari, Porsche, and Lamborghini were comfortably refining their existing models, staying within the safety of established physics and tweaking aerodynamics that were already proven, Bugatti started from a completely blank sheet of paper. They weren't just building a car, they were trying to rewrite the laws of thermodynamics. The developmental phase was nothing short of a nightmare. The very first prototype caught fire during a testing session. The heat generated by the experimental power plant was simply too much for the materials of the day to handle. The cooling system couldn't keep up with the extreme demands of the engine. The bodywork, at speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour, acted like a massive airplane wing, trying to lift the car off the pavement rather than pinning it down. Every single day, the engineering team was hitting a brick wall. Budgets were burning faster than the tires on a test track, and to the outside world, and even to many inside the Volkswagen boardroom, the project looked like a slow-motion disaster. The team was backed into a corner, with no ready-made solutions, no blueprint from any competitor, and effectively no map to guide them. They were fumbling in the dark. Every single minor failure cost the company millions, and the pressure was suffocating. The development process became an endless, grueling war against physics, where every extra kilometer per hour of top speed was bought with thousands of hours of overheating, mechanical failures, and sheer, raw despair. But it was exactly this long, agonizing string of failures that transformed the Bugatti Veyron from just another fast car into something much, much greater. It was a defiant gauntlet thrown down to the entire world, forcing every other major player in the automotive industry to stop, stare, and realize they were now playing by completely new, much tougher rules. When we look at the Veyron today, we see a perfect, polished piece of machinery. But beneath that iconic gloss lies the story of how a group of obsessed, brilliant individuals almost destroyed a great brand and nearly bankrupted themselves, all just to carve their names into the bedrock of history forever. They didn't just build a vehicle, they created a monument to human stubbornness. Then came 2005, when the Bugatti Veyron was finally rolled out onto the Era Lessian test track. A deafening silence fell over the industry. At a time when Ferrari, Lamborghini, and McLaren were still refining their classic wedge-shaped silhouettes, relying on lightness and the raw mechanical connection between driver and machine, the Veyron looked like an alien object. In the corridors of the leading brands, people openly mocked it, dismissing it as a Volkswagen engineering error. A heavy, overly complex, clumsy barge that would never be able to corner properly. But when the speedometer needle confidently crossed the magic 400 kilometers per hour mark, the skepticism instantly turned into cold shock. The world saw not just a fast car, but a machine that tore up every rulebook in existence. The Veyron didn't demand the skills of a Formula One pilot, it didn't rattle the driver's soul on every bump, and it didn't require an exhaustive pre-flight warm-up routine. It blasted to 100 kilometers per hour in an unthinkable 2.5 seconds, and then, with terrifying stability, continued to accelerate to speeds at which ordinary supercars would have had their doors ripped off. All the while, inside, there was absolute silence, music played, and the cabin was trimmed with the same luxury found in high-end limousines. It was a gut punch to the entire industry. The engineers at Ferrari and Lamborghini felt like people who had spent decades building the world's finest sailboats, only to suddenly watch a nuclear-powered icebreaker steam past them at full throttle. The old rules, where weight was the ultimate enemy and comfort was a compromise for speed, were trampled. The team at Volkswagen proved that excess was not a weakness, but a new form of dominance. They had built a tank that behaved like a ballerina, and this contrast paralyzed the competition. The Veyron transformed the very concept of the hypercar from a flashy marketing term into a tangible, almost frightening reality. The ripples of this breakthrough spread across the globe like a shockwave. The arrival of the Veyron forced major players out of their comfort zones and into a desperate, frantic power race that has not cooled down to this day. Brands that had been stagnant at the 600 to 700 horsepower mark for years suddenly realized that their top-tier models had become obsolete overnight. They were forced to rewrite their textbooks, overhaul their aerodynamic designs, and pour billions into finding solutions that Bugatti had already pioneered through its own hellish development cycle. Furthermore, the Veyron effectively broke the global automotive supply chain. The tire and braking industries of that era were simply not designed to handle such immense loads. Bugatti had to force its partners, like Michelin, to develop entirely new materials and unique rubber compounds that previously existed only in aerospace laboratories. They compelled brake manufacturers to leap into the era of ceramics and titanium alloys while introducing active wings that functioned as air brakes. The entire automotive industry was forced to rise to this new level because the Bugatti standard had become the new baseline for anyone who wanted to call themselves a manufacturer of elite machines. While some brands scrambled to chase the raw numbers, others realized that the Veyron had created a new niche of ultimate luxury. The car ceased to be a mere toy for the rich. It became an engineering artifact, a testament to technological supremacy that could be bought. Bugatti set a price ceiling where cost was no longer a market metric, but a symbol of what it takes to manifest a dream that others didn't even dare to pursue. The world stopped viewing the supercar as just a sports machine. It was now the most complex, most expensive, and most audacious challenge ever thrown at the laws of physics. The legend didn't just return, it forever divided automotive history into before and after the Veyron. Today, looking back, it becomes clear. The Veyron was not just a car, it was the Concorde on wheels, the pinnacle of an engineering era that can never be repeated. We live in a world where horsepower figures continue to climb, yet the impact created by Bugatti remains entirely unique. This story serves as the ultimate proof that great brands do not die as long as there are people willing to bet everything on a single, seemingly impossible goal. Ferdinand Piëch and his team did more than build a car. They carved their names into the foundation of history, proving that the impossible is merely a matter of time, resources, and relentless obsession. When you look at today's modern hypercars, you can see echoes of that Bugatti madness in every one of them. The Veyron pushed the boundaries of the permissible so far that the industry is still trying to grasp the magnitude of that shift. It transformed the very concept of the hypercar from a marketing buzzword into a tangible, almost terrifying reality. The decade of the 90s, which began with bankruptcy and the auctioning off of tools, ended with a triumph that permanently altered the automotive world. The legend didn't just survive, it was reborn. Today, when we hear the name Bugatti, we don't think of dusty blueprints or abandoned workshops in Modena. We think of the absolute limit of human capability. We think of the sheer stubbornness that forced the laws of physics to yield. And perhaps that is the greatest victory in automotive history, the transformation of a total catastrophe into something eternal.